Hey, and welcome to our live stream. I am Jaye, and I am the founder of Launch, the Happy Performance Agency. And I'm joined today with our new department head. Joe, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, nice to meet you. My name's Joe. I've recently joined Launch as Conversion Director.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. We're so delighted to have you on board. And we thought what we do is give everyone a whirlwind introduction to exactly what conversion optimization is. While we've got you here on this live stream, there is some live chat. So I don't know which way I'm meant to point. Maybe I'll get better at that. But definitely put some questions as we go along. This is meant to be interactive. So pop them in there, and Vicky, who's behind the scenes, will star them so that we can make sure that we get to them. So, Joe, are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm ready.
So I'm going to ask with the most obvious and easy question. What the hell is conversion optimization?
Well, yeah, good question, Jay. It's got many names, so we'll start with the most common one, which is CRO, conversion rate optimization. Basically, it's the practice of increasing the number of people who arrive on your website that convert into customers. So that's the most simple way of putting it, but that could be any kind of action on your website. So it's not just someone buying something or a transaction. It could be filling in a form, it could be donating money if you're a charity, or it could be watching a video. So any conversion action, it's the number of people who are doing that. And it's the process of using user research and experimentation, or A/B testing, to make incremental improvements to your website's conversion rate. So there's some debate over what it's called, but there's not really there's not much between them. Some people use conversion optimization, some people drop the rate from the phrase CRO. Both names are valid. To save confusion, I often just say CRO, as that's the language that most people use and understand.
And a lot of people are now just saying crow, but then that makes
Oh
me
gosh, yeah, the crows.
So I think you've summed it up beautifully there, but why are you finding that companies investing in it? Why is it important?
Well, yeah, good question. I'd say, simply put, it's because it would be a very expensive mistake not to invest in it. Brands are already putting a lot of their marketing budget into driving traffic to their website through PPC, social, programmatic, SEO, for amongst many other different types of channels. Most of the time, that website has not been optimized, so they aren't necessarily getting the best return on their advertising spend. Essentially, they're kind of leaving cash on the table where they could be making more money. So CRO is important because it focuses on optimizing the whole funnel, not just the top of the funnel, but the website as well, so you can get more conversions for the same amount of traffic.
It's that
A nice addition.
isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But a nice sort of additional benefit to investing in CRO is that obviously we want to be improving the conversion rate, but a lot of the time people are making changes to their website and they're not necessarily testing those changes. So actually they could be making the conversion rate worse by accident. So really we're looking to sort of implement or encourage a culture of testing everything, because otherwise you're kind of just guessing and hoping for the best. So it can help you make better business decisions, but also increase your return on marketing spend. Those are the main reasons.
So how does a brand or company know if their website actually needs CRO, or when is actually a good time to begin with that thought piece?
Good question. And I would say this, but I've got a good reason to, is the best time to start is always now. And really, it is, because I'd say otherwise, well, unfortunately, I think most businesses may start to think about investing in CRO when it's already too late. They may have noticed a consistent decline in conversion rate, or they're just not getting the same amount of return on their investment that they're expecting. Things have slightly changed, and it's going in the wrong direction. And by that point, you're already too far down the line for you to have made those gains. So you shouldn't really be waiting for website performance to dip before you start considering CRO. If you can get on it sooner, the better. Don't wait for the new website to launch, which could be coming this year, it could be next year. You should start sort of learning now what's stopping your users from converting, so you can learn from that, implement changes, start making winning changes. it's actually even more important if you're planning a new campaign that's going to go live, because that's when you stand the most to lose. That's when you're spending a lot of money on new traffic, and you don't want to be making additional risks where you don't need to. Or if you've got, for instance, a new website going live and there's a huge amount of pressure on that website performing, that's the best time to start testing and understanding what's going wrong. Another question that's kind of similar to that, which often comes up, is are there any websites which are not suited to CRO? So that, you know, for instance, I'm a charity or I'm a content website, and the answer is not really, because like I said earlier, it's not necessarily just transactions or conversions in the traditional sense that we're looking at. It could be lead generation, it could be donations, content-based websites, or subscribers. You can still optimize that journey, no matter what that particular action is. So yes,
and that's the point, isn't it?
That
your website is the foundation of everything online, but the incremental changes and gains can have a really big impact, and it's a constantly evolving living being, that
exactly,
never finished.
And always, we're not always aiming for perfect, we're just aiming for better than before. And that's another thing that I always try and communicate, is not necessarily thinking that a website's going to be finished, or that once you've built the new website that it's finished and you can just leave it, forget it, put it on the shelf for a few years until we need a new one. It should be more of a mindset shift towards, like you said, always improving, that it's iterating towards better. That's the idea.
Yeah. So the next question is, what elements create a successful CRO strategy?
Yes. Okay. So there's so many different elements to a successful CRO strategy, and I'll just try and dip into a few now. First of all, I think having the right, so what I was saying earlier about the right mindset, so thinking more towards being led by the data and testing everything is a really important shift that I think as a business it's quite hard to start thinking in that way, instead of just doing things because that's always the way it's been done. So trying to get into a mindset of sort of more scientific thinking of, we're going to test everything before it goes live, that's really important. But having the right mixture of skills and resource as well, either in-house or through your agency. So strategy, UX research and design, development, someone who's got really good analytical skills, who can look through web analytics data. Obviously, all of those are really key components. Being able to implement your winning tests quickly is really important as well. Unfortunately, I feel like there's a bit of a trend, or at least there's a problem in the industry of having lots of good A/B testing ideas, and then when some of those A/B tests win, it actually takes a long time for them to be implemented live on site. So the quicker you can implement those, the quicker you can realize those gains. So having quick implementation.
Do you take that into account when you're first speaking to the client and you're looking at the project? Do you take that into account to make sure that we can actually implement some of the things that we're trying to test out?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So one of the first questions we'll always ask is that, what's your dev and engineering resource setup like? And for instance, do you have an in-house development team? Do you have an agency? And we'll always try and have a really close relationship with that team, so that we can give them sight of any test that we're going to run, and ideally, ask them how long they expect a specific change might take for them to build, so we can factor that into our sort of prioritization of tests we might want to run. If something's going to take a really long time to build, then it might not get as high prioritization as something else that's going to be quite a quick fix. So yeah, definitely would love to always take that into account.
And collaboration is one of our key values, isn't it? And that really helps where you've got multiple stakeholders. You might have multiple agencies, multiple teams within a company. Being able to get them all to work together, that's important.
That's a great segue into my next key element, which was about collaboration. So having buy-in from the exec team is really important, but having really close collaboration with all of the other teams in the mix as well. So either sales, marketing, customer experience. It's really important to have close relationships with those guys, because they're also going to have they're also going to have really useful insights for you to be able to use for your testing campaign. For example, the sales team probably have a really good understanding of who your target customer is. So having a great relationship with the sales team so that you can ask them about who the target user is, what makes them tick, their goals, their pain points, demographics, all of that kind of stuff is really useful. And then customer experience usually deal with the complaints that might happen after something's been bought or purchased or returned. And that's just as important for us to be able to know what kinds of complaints that are being surfaced later on down the user journey, for us to kind of surface that information on the website when people are looking for the products for them. So yeah, having really close collaboration with other teams is another one.
I think that customer piece is really, really important, because companies might have several segments of customers. Maybe the traffic that they're acquiring through paid media might have a slightly different skew to their regular loyal clients, or different products that they're buying. And having that depth of understanding at the beginning of the project, and knowing, more about the customer, and then learning even more through this, can be a great way of enhancing all of the marketing strategy, not just the conversion piece.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important. So yeah, a really crucial part.
Talk to me about tools that you use.
So yeah, absolutely. The right tool mix is often something that can be a little bit off-putting, I think, if people are thinking about CRO, because there's so many tools out there that you could use, and a lot of them do the same thing. So I'm going to talk really about the categories of tools that you might want to invest in, and then might name a couple, but it's more important that you have just one of a kind of tool than having multiple, or having a specific one. So user research tools is predominantly where we would start. So things like a user testing platform, or other kinds of user behavior analysis tools, and there are lots out there. So Userlytics, Usability Hub, usertesting.com, all of these will allow you to get in touch with people who are registered online, and they have you have access to their demographic data, so you can be really specific about who you're targeting, and they allow us to get really useful insights and rich insights on people who are on desktop, on mobile. They might be from different countries, different backgrounds, and they allow us to test the website in their environment, so that we can observe them using the website, understand what's stopping them from converting, and then get our ideas for A/B tests from there. Heat mapping and session recording tools, and there are lots out there, Hotjar, Microsoft Clarity, to name a couple. These are kind of visual analytics tools which allow us to see where people are browsing, what they're clicking on, what they're not clicking on, and then actually review specific sessions on websites where they might have got into some trouble, and we want to understand a bit closer what's going on. Web traffic analytics tools, Google Analytics obviously is the big one there, and one that we use day in, day out to try and understand what people are doing on the website. So the conversion funnel report, or conversion so funnel exploration report, is where we'd usually start. So where are people dropping off the most will give us a really quick insight into where we should be spending our time. So are people dropping off in a specific part of the checkout journey, or are they actually finding it hard to find the products to begin with? Will give us a bit of a lead as to where we might make the quickest gains.
No question on that. Are you happy about GA4, and do you think it gives more opportunities for CRO?
Yeah, so it's a tricky one. So I think most people, I think it's definitely a more powerful tool, and the initial hesitation around it, and some of the sort of, I guess, reluctance to use it was because it's a completely different way of finding that data. So it kind of forces you into being a bit more investigative and using your own, arriving into the tool with a business question in mind, right? So what we're trying to find a specific answer to a specific question. Very powerful for doing that. Some of the standardized reports that we had in Universal Analytics are gone. So some of that kind of like, just rote work where you'd go in and just have a look around. It's a bit harder to do that, but it's actually really powerful. So I'm a fan personally.
Good. Are there any more things you want to talk about on the tools, or can we talk about
just one more?
Go on then, Jaye.
One more, and then I'll sorry. A/B testing and experimentation. So as most people now know, Google Optimize is sunsetting. So if you haven't already migrated, or if you're looking to migrate, or even just start and looking for a new A/B testing tool, there are plenty of options out there. We've got great relationships with most of the big platforms, but having one that is going to suit your needs, one that ideally gives you access to things like multivariate testing so that you can test multiple different designs, and use personalizations as well. So yeah.
And didn't you write a blog on that, Joe, I think, as well? So
Yeah.
maybe through the power of technology, Vicky might even be able to put the link to the blog in the comments below, but we'll see. So I think this is actually a really difficult question to ask, because I think it's going to be specific to the company, but what kind of KPIs do you associate with CRO? Well, that's a lot of acronyms in one sentence.
Gosh, yes. Okay, so it's definitely an interesting question, because as you said, it depends on the customer, their website type, and their conversion type. But one thing I will say is that it's not as easy as just saying let's compare the conversion rate in March to the conversion rate in June, or even year on year, because there's so many other variables that are outside of your control that can dictate what that conversion rate is, especially like, your overall conversion rate. So it could be things like traffic volume and quality of that traffic, changes to the website that are outside of the control of the CRO team, market dynamics, competitor activity, seasonality. All of these things can mean that you're kind of comparing apples and oranges if you're just looking at overall conversion rate. So we're trying to be a bit more specific about what kind of conversion rate we mean when we're measuring the effectiveness. And generally speaking, the most accurate way of doing that is by A/B testing your changes. So if you've got a change that you want to make on the website, running that through an A/B testing tool will give you a really accurate way of saying whether this actually has made the website performance improve or not. And then you can kind of extrapolate from there as to what the overall website performance improvement might be as a result of the campaign. But some other secondary KPIs that I really love for CRO, which I'm always trying to bang the drum for, are things like how many number of user research initiatives you've carried out that month to try and like understand what's going on the website. How many testing ideas you've created, how many bug fixes you found on the website, and then the number of tests that have led to a conclusive result and a decision. Those are some really nice ones.
Having a one-off project where you're saying we've got this challenge with it, and this is the result that we're looking to analyze. You're looking at a 12-month plan of ongoing improvements.
Exactly.
Planning as the data gets collected, you're then planning the next sprint, and it's a continual, because basically we all talk about users in this scenario, but they're potential customers, aren't they? Or they're maybe even existing customers. So it's about giving them the best possible experience.
Yeah, it should always, definitely. And in terms of what you're looking to change, and what you're prioritizing on the website to change, that might shift as well over time as new research uncovers new insights. So one thing that was very high up your list, you might do a new research study, and that uncovers a really big problem that you want to fix sooner. And as you mentioned there, in terms of sprints, that might shuffle our priorities for what we're going to change on the website in the next month or two. So it's a constantly changing and improving methodology, but it allows for new data to come in and reprioritize things.
So I'm going to bundle some of the questions that we've had so far into, I've got one question, which is how long is it before you can see the results from CRO? But I'm also going to add into this, what's that starting point? Can a business just dip their toe into this, or is it like both full feet in? It's a 3-year plan.
How long should it take is the golden question, isn't it? It's difficult, but it's not a cop out, but it does depend on a few things. It depends on your maturity of where you are with CRO to see results. So just to give you a very practical answer, for example, if you've never done CRO before and you're starting from scratch, it can take a little while to get your conversion tool stack set up, to do a tech audit, make sure that you're tracking correctly, to do an audit of your website and see where your quickest gains could be, and then launch your first A/B test. That can take a little while to actually bed in and do that. Maybe not talking very long, weeks and maybe a month or two. And so you're already, in terms of when you might see the results of that, it might be a couple of months. But if you are already in a mature program and you have those things set up, you can start seeing results in the first few weeks as soon as you've got a test live. But in terms of how those results improve over time, it's as you mentioned, we tend to say that we like our programs to last at least 6 to 12 months, because that's when you start seeing the best results. It's when you've got those multiple different types of research coming in, and the kind of compound benefits all of those means that you can get really rich insights, and those only start to come after a few months when you've actually had the time to do that research. And I've completely forgotten your other question. Sorry, Jay. Could you mind?
Well,
A starting point.
Dipping your toe in the water. Do you start with a problem page first, or do you do a full website review and look at everything?
So for that, it's a really good question. I would say start with where the biggest gains can be made. So which pages are you sending the most traffic to? So if there's a specific product page or a category page where most of your paid search traffic or your social traffic is going to, that's where most of the optimization wins probably are. So that's probably where I'd say you should start. And actually, if you just optimize that page to begin with, your highest traffic landing page, and see what results you get from that, and then you can prove the value of it, and then you can start looking at other pages.
Because that, proving the value of it is important. We all do have limited budgets. No one, we're trying to fit into a budget line. But the fact is if you can prove the effectiveness of it in a small scenario, we're affecting all traffic sources. So, we're paid media predominantly, but all traffic sources, all users, all customers, potential customers will benefit from it. I've got also a great question here from Shamir. What is your preferred framework for CRO?
Ooh, okay. I think that might be referring to prioritization matrices, which I'm going to assume that's what that question is about. And my preferred framework is the PXL framework, which allows you to be a bit more scientific about the way that you're prioritizing your tests according to how much data you have to back up those tests. So that's the one that I tend to subscribe to, but there's lots out there like Pi and a few others, but PXL is the one that I use, generally speaking. Sorry to get all technical.
I feel we've gone from the kind of the basic why do CRO straight to the other end of advanced, because at this point this is where my knowledge starts to end. But we've obviously got a webinar coming up, a panel conversation that we will promo in a minute, where you're going to be doing interviews with lots of different tools. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to ask this because I think this is one of the best questions, especially in marketing, which is as much about failure as success, because you learn from things that haven't worked. What are the common mistakes to avoid in CRO?
Yeah, okay, good one. I love this question because, like you said, from having done this for quite a few years now, you do start to see the same things coming up, and it's like a way of hopefully using that experience to help other people, and so they can avoid the same mistakes. So the first one is making the assumption that you can think just like the user. So most people, when they arrive on a website, they might see things that they think they might change, things that they could do better, or the website could do better. But the truth is that we aren't the target user in 99% of those scenarios. It's either a really specific offering or a specific product that we aren't necessarily the target market for. So it's very difficult for us to make judgments on something where we aren't the target audience. So I'd say trying to get out of the mindset of that we can kind of make decisions or design decisions on behalf of a user that has a completely different mental model to us. They've got different priorities, different backgrounds. So the answer to that is always invest in research, invest in user testing, be very specific with who you're recruiting for that study, especially if you have a niche business offering or a niche product offering, and then watch those people use your website, ask them questions, try and understand what's important to them. And then that's really solid research and data and insights that you can use to improve your website with. So I'd say number one is try not to think that you're just like the user, and try and get into the habit of sort of exercising your empathy and getting into their shoes a bit more.
Great. A great summary, definitely. We also, I want to talk a little bit about the webinar that we've got coming up on the 14th of March, which you have got Microsoft Clarity and VWO. So tell me a bit about it.
Yeah, so we have Jan Marks from VWO and Sharon Peng from Microsoft Clarity, and they are fantastic speakers, and I've worked with both of them before on several different projects. So Sharon works in product for Microsoft Clarity. Microsoft Clarity, for those of you who don't know, is a fantastic user behavior analysis tool. It's also completely free, and it's brilliant for what it does. So it's a user heat mapping and session recording tool. And so Sharon has tons of insights on how to go about collecting the best sort of insights from that tool, how to use it, quick wins, hacks, things like that. And so Jan Marks from VWO, he's an expert in A/B testing. And so we've got kind of both sides of the spectrum, both A/B testing and research. So we're going to have a really interesting discussion around, so it's called the ABCs of CRO. So again, it's going to be talking about how to kind of get started with an A/B testing program and a CRO program, do's and don'ts, quick wins, practical advice that we can use and that you can start using immediately.
Nice. And what I'm going to ask you to do, while I also talk about the event that we've got coming up on the 22nd of March, is if you could, look at that. Look at that. Oh, Vicky, you're a legend. Behind the scenes, Vicky, who has just shared that for us. But we've also got an in-person event coming up, the CMO's Guide to Customer Acquisition. Over 100 people. I think there's a couple of spaces left. At the awesome Deluxe Cinema in Bristol, which is super, super luxy, the biggest seats I've ever seen in a cinema. But we've also got Microsoft joining us there, talking about purposeful marketing. We're going to be talking about GA4. We're also going to have some panel sessions with CMOs talking about what challenges they've got. And Joe, you're, I think, on a panel talking about the importance of a good website foundation and how it can transform a business.
Yeah, I'll be talking with Josh, so I'm really looking forward to that. Should hopefully see many of you there.
Brilliant. Let me just see if there was any more questions. I haven't got any more questions at the moment to ask you, but this to me is going to be the first of many sessions like this, Joe. It is wonderful to have you part of Team Launch. We deliver traffic to websites every single day of the week in the hundreds and hundreds of, probably millions rather than thousands, and being able to make that traffic work harder, ensure that we're giving customers or potential customers a good experience, is absolutely the next step on our journey. So thank you so much, Joe, for talking today. And make sure you sign up. Make sure you sign up on the 14th. And I'm loving all of these interactive things. StreamYard is absolutely winning today. And thank you, Vicky, for all of the work behind the scenes.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers. All right. Have a great day, everyone. And I hope to see you all soon.
Take care.